A lot of energy, very focused football team. They understand the challenge that we face this week playing Liberty, a ranked team that deserves the ranking they have, and in my opinion, maybe a little higher. It's not a stretch for me to say it's the most impressive defense that I've seen all year on film. The way they play, the way they get up the field, the way they rush the passer, they lead the country in sacks, the negative plays they generate in the run game, the way they rally to the ball it's very, very, very impressive. We all know about Hugh Freeze's offensive prowess. He's one of the great offensive minds in the game, and you see it, on film when you watch him. They've got a quarterback that can make all the throws. He's tough. He's physical. He runs the ball well. They've got a very, very good receiving core, big physical guys, and then a player that really stands out that they use all over the field in the slot, and someone that you've really got to keep track of all the time. And I like their running backs, and I think one of their starter. I believe, unfortunately, hurt his knee, but it doesn't really matter because the guys they put in can really play. And they got great speed. They can accelerate. They get to the boundary. They press your edge. They test your contain. And it's just a really, really, really good football team. Their offensive line is big. They're physical. They stay square. They do a great job in the run game with their counters and their zone schemes, and they just put a lot of pressure on you. So it's a heck of a challenge, and our guys they love the challenges, and this is another one of them. So it'll be fun to see what happens on Saturday.
Jim, are they a high-tempo offense?
High-tempo offense. They go fast. They go fast on all downs, and yet they'll change their tempo at times. They do a really good job of using different personnel groups. They'll use we call 11, which is 3 wides, a back, and a tight end. They'll use 2 tight ends, 2 wideouts. They'll go 3 tight ends, a wideout, and a back. They'll go 2 tight ends, 3 wideouts. They'll go 2 backs, 3 wideouts. They'll go 4 wideouts and a back. So they do a really good job of making you prepare for a lot of things. But to me, at the end of the day, it comes down to a couple things. Number one, they're very well coached. And number 2 is they play extremely hard and they know what they're doing. And they're a darn good football team.
Coach, obviously the weather can change before Saturday gets here, but it's supposed to be rainy and kind of tough weather. But how much does that affect the game?
We really don't even think of it. I mean, I checked the weather before I went out this morning, and it said that it was supposed to be sunny at 11 o'clock. And I probably won't look at it the rest of the week. It just doesn't matter. We're going to both play on the same field. There's nothing you do about it. Sometimes you might wet the ball down a little bit, but I'm kind of Bill Walsh was always a guy I always still lean on, although, rest in peace. But, Bill always just emphasized, let's have good practices. Let's not wet the ball down. Let's not go out on a slippery field because we think the field's going to be slippery. Let's have great practices. And I kind of subscribe to that theory. And then when you roll the ball out on Saturday, you play. And that doesn't mean you don't talk about, staying up when you tackle or putting the right shoes on. But there's things you can't control, so you don't worry about them. You just take the proper steps to make sure you're set to go.
Do you feel like your offense, running the game ball a lot, do you feel like your offense is kind of ready for that and it works?
Well, we've run the ball well, but they play the run well. This is. I'm not overstating it when I say this is, arguably the best defense we've faced. I watched them a lot yesterday on defense, and not only just because I wanted to see what we were up against, but because I liked their scheme and I love the way they play and they fly around and they know how to stop the run. In the first half against Arkansas last week, every second down was second and 11 or more, it seemed like, and every third down was third and long, and they get after it. They're a really good group of defensive players.
It's senior day on Saturday for your seniors. I know you haven't been around their whole career, but just talk about what they've meant to the program, everything they've been through. Everyone's gone through what they've been through.
Yeah, it's amazing, really. I think about the guys that are going to walk out there and be recognized before the game, and just the perseverance and the will that they've shown through their career. to go through what they've gone through in terms of COVID. And before that, just, really struggling to find success. And then last year, coaching change. And then this year, someone new comes in, a whole new staff and new demands. And it'd be really easy for those guys to have just at some point like slumped their shoulders and given in. And they never did that. And it's very impressive. It speaks to their character. And it's what makes them so fun to coach. And I say this to you guys every week. I think it's the most enjoyable group of young men that I've ever had the good fortune of coaching, and it's really led by those seniors. So, if we can keep that culture going here through the years, then we're going to be in a really good place in terms of the type of men that we have in this program, and they're the leaders.
How's your team different right now than it was the last time you faced a couple ranked opponents where you didn't fare very well?
We have a little more confidence, a little more belief that we can compete, just because we've gone through that and we've seen what it's like, to play that caliber of opponent, the Syracuse, the NC State, the Michigan, and now Liberty, which they're up there. And we've had some success, a little bit of success after that, and I think that builds some confidence. Some, hey, we can get this done. It's going to take everything we've got, and we can't make mistakes. We got to come out with great energy. We got to play with great fundamentals. We got to play with great focus and great effort. But I think they have a much more firm belief in what we're doing.
You've leaned so heavily on the running game. Is it imperative that you get more balance this week because they can't stop the run so well, or do you just have to execute even better in your running game?
I think we have to be balanced, like you said. I think, they play the run so well, and you guys should go watch the first half of the Arkansas game. It's really, you probably have, but it's really impressive. And we can't get ourselves in 3rd and 12s, right? And those are really hard. And for anybody, and they've been hard for us. So I think, being able to keep them off balance a little bit in terms of run pass early, getting to 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, or converting on 2nd down and moving the chains, that's going to be very critical. Probably most critical thing, though, offensively, is just making sure we take care of the football and don't give them short fields.
You probably answered this before, but when you were looking at this job, and considering taking it, what was it that you saw, from the guys that really you thought that there was an opportunity to build something?
Well, it started with David Benedict, and just the relationship I was able to build with him over, probably the 6 weeks that we were either Zooming or, you guys know, the days that we spent together. And there was a real trust in his vision. And then I think it was further cemented when I got a chance to talk to alumni, administrators, our governor, just like the commitment that they had towards trying to create a winning program here. And then, I knew about this place. I knew about the facilities. I knew we had the bones here in place. And obviously, we're always going to try to upgrade. But, I kind of came in with the thought that we can get this done. And I like challenges, I like challenges. I didn't know the players. I didn't know them at all. The most pleasant surprise of this whole thing has been the players, it's about like the seniors, just their attitude. I said this to you guys probably 20 times, but I'll say it again because it's so important, is like the lack of a sense of entitlement amongst these guys is so refreshing. Like they don't feel like they deserve anything. They just want to work to earn everything. And when you have that attitude as a player or in life, I think that, you're going to get there. You're going to get there. And these guys, man, that locker room, that's what they're like. But it was initially it was David, it was Rochelle, it was Dan Toscano, like talking to those people and feeling that, man, this is important to them. It's a basketball school, or it's been a basketball school. Hopefully it's basketball school. It's a great basketball school. It's basketball capital of the world, right? But I still felt like they wanted to carve out an identity for football.
And you were around the team a little bit. Did you notice that from the players while you were around them, or did it kind of grow as
You know, it grew. I didn't, what I purposely did last year was stay away from the team and just observe and not really talk to them. So it was hard to tell until you kind of get down in the weeds with them and talk to them and learn their personalities and what motivates them, and really like that lack of entitlement. I didn't really notice that. It was more of I was trying to not disrupt those final 3 games that they had worked so hard to try to go win. But it became pretty clear, pretty evident that these guys were different in their mindset. I mean, I appreciate the heck out of them. I'm very fortunate to be able to coach these kids.
One of the seniors, Jackson, do you?
Jackson who?
Mitchell.
No. Whoa. He's a junior.
When he came in, I'm curious, did he take it upon himself to kind of, talk to you about his vision of the program when you were first coming in, and, the steps that he could take to kind of help your transition?
Well, you guys know Jackson. Jackson doesn't say a lot, but we did have conversations. But he's one of those guys sometimes you have to drag it out of, So it is more like, hey, Jackson, what do we need? Like, he's not going to come up, knock on the door and go, hey, coach, I think we need to do this. But if you ask him, he's going to be very frank with you. And I'll say this about Jackson is that, like, he's all in all the time, and you can count on that guy. Like if you present an idea to him, or, hey, what do you think about this? And he goes, yeah, I like that. You just know that it's going to get sold. And it's not really by what he says, it's by his actions, And he doesn't have to say a lot. The most you'll ever hear, and you guys won't get a chance to hear it, and I don't really get to hear it too much either, is like about 6 or 7 minutes before we take the field on game day is the most vocal you'll ever hear Jackson Mitchell in the team trying to set the mindset for the players. And it's impactful because he's Jackson Mitchell. He doesn't say a lot, but every single day he demonstrates that toughness and that leadership and that commitment. So then when he does say something, everyone just goes, okay, Jackson's talking, he's serious. It's the same thing like, Christian Haynes. Like Christian doesn't say a lot, but when they do, it means something because of what they've been doing all along. And they have credibility.
On Sunday, you kind of mentioned how you want this program to grow into more than a 5-5 team. And you talked about funding resources. Just more specifically, what do you think the money needs to be allocated to?
Well, right now, nothing. I mean, everything's been great. I mean, the support's been tremendous. I just think that it's important that we always keep our eye on the future, because I think all of us here at this university in this state want to see a successful football program. It's good for everybody. But in order to do that, you have to always be willing to extend yourself, and as expectations rise, commitment, has to rise with it. You can't just think things happen because they happen. And that's what the good programs do, is they're always trying to stay ahead of the curve, You talk about the NIL, for instance. Look, I have really mixed feelings about NIL. I do believe that players should get some money so they can really kind of live like a normal student. And I'm not saying that all students are walking around with money in their pocket, because they're not. But the stress, the expectations put on student athletes is intense. If people have ever been in and seen what a week's like for them, it's really intense. And I think that they should be somehow compensated a little bit for that. I'm not a huge fan of I don't think that it's healthy when you give a 17 or 18-year-old $100,000. I mean, I just think that's not healthy. To me, it should be tied to here's some NIL money, we'll give you some pocket change every month, but if you graduate, maybe here's some money for it, But just being able to compete now, unfortunately, is with a lot of the recruits that we're after, other teams can offer them money. You know what I mean? And so and David is doing a great job of trying to figure out the best way to get that done without just throwing cash out the window. Because really, at the end of the day, no one can afford to do that. You know, no one can, and it's the wrong philosophy. So it's things like that. It's not, you know, we have a really good coaching staff, you know, and people are going to try to poach them. You know, I want to make sure we have a chance to keep those guys and we can compete, and we will, you know, because David's proactive. You know, I talked to him about that, and he says, well, let's be proactive. You know, let's not wait till someone else offers them. They're happy here, let's be proactive. So everything's good. Everything's trending in the right way. But, you know, my vision for this place, and I think everyone else's, is that, okay, let's say we're 500 right now. You know, next year at this point in time, we don't want to be 500. You know, we want to be sitting here at way above 500. So it just takes everybody.
Where do you guys sit injury-wise with Devontae and Cam and Keelan? Where
Devontae practiced, Keelan practiced, Cam practice was a little bit limited. Of the three, he'd be the guy that will kind of have to wait the longest to see. I think he'll be able to do some things. Once again, though, with him, you know, man, it scared him last week, you know, when he felt something in his foot. And I don't want to jeopardize the rest of his career, you know, for one touch of the football. And so we've just got to make sure we move careful with him. He's been through 2 years of, you know, pain, suffering, rehabilitation, get to this point. And if we just rush it, I don't think that's the right thing. But if he says, hey, I can play, and he says with conviction, then we'll find a way to work him in there.
Will Keelan be on sort of a pitch count, so to speak?
Probably. But I think it all depends on how he is on Saturday and how it's going. And I think a lot of that depends on, like, what kind of moves he's having to make or what kind of collisions he's involved in. It was like last week before the game, Matt King came up to me, like, on the sidelines. He says, or not on the sideline, during pregame, he goes, can we limit Devontae to, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8, you know, maybe 10 carries? And I'm like, yeah, I think we should. But after that first run, I went up to Matt and I said, that one doesn't count. He didn't have to cut, and no one touched him, so that one doesn't count, right? And he said, yeah, it doesn't count. So we kind of approach it like that.
And more on Devontae, he's obviously dealt with a bunch of injuries and tried to play through as many as he could. Just having a guy like that, we've talked about it before, but in the locker room, what does that do for the morale of this team?
It's awesome, man. He just, I mean, people that are questioning whether or not they can play or if they have a little pain, they just go, oh, shoot, here's this guy who's, you know, 5'8", 165, taking massive hits, has had a bad shoulder, has a bad ankle, and he's out there practicing, and he's out there running the ball during a game, getting, you know, smashed, and he just keeps getting up and going again. You know, maybe I need to demand a little more of myself, you know, and then the respect that you have for him. I mean, I think that as a team, that when you have a guy like that, like, you take pride in him and being his teammate, and it helps the overall kind of pride of your team.